And you're good
So
to go.
we up,
You're ready.
we're good, we're good to go?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
The Human Resources Committee is now called to order. I don't have a copy of the agenda in front of me. Let's just take a moment of silence. Amen. And what I'll do is I'll turn it over to Kay, because you're going to give us sort of some year-end stats
Yes,
on.
sir. I think first, though, we need to ask for approval of the.
I'm sorry, Chair Gregory. Do we need
Yes,
to approve minutes from the last meeting?
yes. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and
Thank
properly
you.
second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thanks a lot. Okay.
Okay, of course. Okay, so I don't think we have any old business. I'll just move straight to new business, which is our staffing and retention report. As you know, we've been giving you these stats on a monthly basis. Of course, we now have our year-end stats where we actually ended up landing. We were projecting what our turnover would be, but now we know exactly what those numbers are. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Heather and let her share her screen. So we can go over these numbers with you.
Good
Heather?
afternoon. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Let's see, hang on. Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Now we can.
Okay, so let me go forward. Okay, so our first slide here is looking at staffing levels on sworn fire and police through December of 2023. So with the fire, there is the line in red is at 96%. And that is for both of these is less than 1% change since last month. Police is at an 88% staffing level. And just a side note on police, we had a big class that started on January 8th, and 6 police officers started on that date. So that number definitely looks better for when we will run that in January. This is just another graphic showing the staffing levels, and this is January of last year compared to January of this year. On the fire side, we've gone from 88.5% to 96.14%. The police side, 82.32% to 87.94% in January of this year. So fire is up about 7%, police is down about 4%.
And what do you think caused it down for the police department, the 4%?
I know that you all have received some additional information from the police department because they had a number that was trending up as far as turnover goes. So I'm not sure. Cassandra might be able to share more information regarding that, but I know typically at the end of the year, we do see if they're going to be retirements. I feel like December is a higher month for that.
I can see that.
Councilmember, we do keep a report that, and I apologize, I'm traveling to another meeting. I apologize, but we do keep a report that goes over exit interviews, and I'd be happy to share what those exit interviews are showing us. But we have had a couple of retirements as well.
Okay. Just want to make sure that it's not going to continue to trend down.
And it looks like Councilmember Boyd has a question too.
Yes, Councilman Boyd.
Thank you, Ms. Pope. I had so we look at these in percentage numbers, but could you remind me how many sworn police officers we have and how many sworn firefighters we have in the city, roughly? I mean, are we talking about, doesn't have to be exact, but you mentioned the six new police officers that are coming on in January or started in January. Just trying to figure out how many percentage points that ticks up.
So sworn for us, council members 456.
Okay.
We're currently down a little over 40 positions right now.
Okay.
And I feel like fire is around 400, but I can get you that exact number.
Okay, no, that's good enough. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that slide, or we okay to move forward?
Let's move. Okay.
Okay. So this next slide is the way we have transitioned to showing the non-sworn staffing update. This was something that I think you all had taken a look at in our last meeting, and this seemed to be a little bit more meaningful than the graphic version to show where the vacancies are. So this looks at from update from December and the vacancy rates by department. One thing to note there with housing, they have, while it shows a 25% vacancy, they are similar to HR, a smaller department. So when you are even missing one person, that from a percentage standpoint is pretty significant. They had someone who started on the 8th, and so that will reduce their rate by 10%. And then as of January 8th, we did have, in addition to the 6 police officers, we had a number of non-sworn employees, a total of 17 that were in that new hire class.
Let me go back to housing and community development. Are we saying that we only have 4 full-time people in housing and community development?
We're saying that we have one new vacancy compared to December. And I can forward to the next slide that will tell you the total number of vacancies there.
Okay. Because the vacancy rate is what? Was 25%?
It was a 25% additional, I believe, is what that number is representing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
20% vacancy rate in January of last year was 20%. This year, 25%. So it increased by 5%. But even with the hire of that one person, it will reduce significantly by 10%.
Like Councilman Boyd, it would be great to see what the numbers are.
Okay, and we can get those to you.
Yeah,
we can send that as a follow-up.
Yeah, please, because I think as we move forward, we might want to do that. I think it gives you a better sense of what's going on.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and then and looking at
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Hey, Ms. Pope, I just wanted to ask you, going back on recreation, I see we had a decrease. I know that we combined some part-time into full-time, I believe. Is that what we're seeing, or do you know if we filled those positions, and is there a large percentage of that that's still part-time, I guess?
And Lindsay's on this call. She's our recruitment manager, so I'll let her speak to that as far as the filling of the recreation vacancies.
And if we can also speak to the stormwater vacancies as well as traffic and transportation, those percentages are pretty high. I thought that, with the raises and the other incentives, that those numbers would go down.
They definitely have gone down. Particularly, I'm glad you pointed out stormwater. If you look at January of 23, we were almost at 50%. And so that's almost a 20% reduction from this time last year. So I definitely think it has been impactful. And I know that Lindsay has been working with particularly Kendrick Swinton in stormwater and helping him to look at, they've been screening applications for him, trying to help with whatever they can do interview wise to get the candidates in front of them and hopefully onboarded.
I mean, what it does is, for me at least, it raises my eyebrows that at the end of the year, given the increases in salary, bonuses, and other incentives, that we're still where we are with regard to these high vacancy rates in 2, 3, 4 of our departments. And for me, it raises the question as to whether or not we need to be considering other types of incentives so that we can try to get to full employment in these places.
I definitely think we're in a better place than we were this time last year. I think that the significant pay plan adjustment has made a big difference. And I think you'll see that on the turnover slide that we'll take a look at. The other thing to point out with traffic and transportation is the parking enforcement operations fall within T&T, and they always historically just have a very hard time filling those roles.
Well, and that would be my next question. Given the amount of resources that parking enforcement brings in to the city, them having this kind of vacancy rate, we're losing tens of thousands of dollars. Are there things that we can do, like perhaps reclassifying some of those positions so that we can pay them more money and therefore we get more revenue in?
Councilmember Gregory, this is Kay, and I'd like to just, point out, and I know that you probably remember this, but we issued an RFP for a vendor to do a complete compensation study for the city of Charleston, something that we have never done. We issued the RFP, we received 8 proposals. We have shortlisted that to 3 vendors, and we're going to be seeing presentations next Friday on the 19th with the hope of actually selecting somebody on Friday. But that is reclassifications, looking at our entire pay plan. That is what we're looking to get.
What I'm trying to find out, I understand we're doing all that, but what I'm trying to find out is, what can we do in the interim, okay, to save those tens of thousands of dollars that we're losing in parking revenue simply because the hourly rate that we're paying them is not competitive even with McDonald's?
Well, our new hourly minimum is $18 an hour. So, I mean, I think I'd have to disagree with you. I feel like with the almost 6% increase that we got on the 6th, I think our pay rates are actually pretty competitive now. I'm not saying we couldn't make further adjustments or there's not, more things we can do, but $18 an hour minimum, especially from where we started a few years ago, I think is pretty good.
No,
And Councilmember Gregory, when we're looking at pay, McDonald's starts at around $8 an hour. Even like companies like Chick-fil-A, their starting pay is much higher. But I definitely agree that there's going to be some need for the positions.
Maybe I used the wrong examples, okay? But I think that getting $20 an hour these days is not that hard to do. And if we're not there in terms of competitiveness, okay, we are technically losing thousands of dollars in parking tickets and revenues that we could be getting in. That's the only point I'm making for us to sort of think about it, that somehow waiting for the completion of a study, okay, I agree we need the study, all right, but in the meantime, if we're losing thousands of dollars in revenue, we need to find something in the interim that we may be able to do so that we can save those dollars. I don't know what that is, but to me, if it's simply raising or reclassifying our positions so that we can, in fact, pay a little more and therefore keep folks on staff, as opposed to turnovers and going someplace else where they can make more money. I don't want to belabor it, but I do think that we have an issue of lost revenue in our traffic and transportation department simply because we cannot keep the folks who write the tickets, okay, satisfied enough to stay. Okay, just wanted that for the record. We can move on.
Okay. So this is showing our annual turnover. We earlier in the year, we were trending maybe in a little bit better direction. I think overall, on the non-sworn side of things, this is where the pay plan adjustment was impactful, where you see the end of 2022, we're at 24.32%, while the end of 2023, we're at 15.09%. So that's a significant change. we were around 12 to 13 is what we were predicting for the end of the year, but I think we had more turnover than we had predicted based on the historical trend there. The fire side of annual turnover is looking good with a reduction from last year, 9.03 going to 7.9. Police is a slight uptick there, 9.73 to 11.81. Any questions about that slide?
Comparatively speaking, it seems as though for the most part, the salary changes may in fact have made a difference here overall.
I definitely think so.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. And I will let Lindsay give the recruitment update.
All right, so the main thing that we're looking at here is sorry, let me get my slide, is the conversion rate. So of course, the conversion rate is a statistic representing how many people that actually click on the post. Of course, people that are clicking on it are not necessarily applying. So looking at the viewers, we convert to applicants. So conversion for December, average being 1.21 applicants postings, increasing slightly from last month. And the conversion rate did hold steady at 1%. So making our postings effective for applicants to do more than just clicking on it, but to apply to the positions.
Any questions about that information?
Nope.
And right now the information that we have presented on recruitment, we're looking at better ways to get some data out of NeoGov, which is our current system for presenting in future meetings. And Jennifer, I will let you give this, or Kay, either one, on the comp study.
Well, as I said, Councilmember Gregory and council members, as you know, we've been talking about doing the compensation study, and there are actually a good many positions in the city we want to focus on when they do this study. We've asked them to give us their first round of recommendations within 6 months so they can be included in the budget for 2025. We did, as I said, receive 8 submittals. The committee shortlisted to 3, and we are going to be seeing presentations from those 3 next Friday on the 19th, with the hope that we'll be able to vote and make a selection, hopefully finalize a contract and get them going in February. We are asking them to attach a cost to each phase of the project, because we did ask for other things besides just a comp study. We asked them to look at internal equity, review our job descriptions. I guess most important to me, Councilmember Gregory, and I think this is a huge factor, with all of our non-sworn employees, is we need to implement some type of pay progression plan so we can move non-sworn along their pay grade, is just like we have for fire and police. I think those plans have been very successful. I am actually very proud that we have an $18 an hour minimum. I think I really am. I think that's great. But once the employees get in, they need to see what the next step is. Where do they go from there? So that is one thing I'm going to lean heavily on whoever is selected to, give us advice, kind of look at, our pay plan and see if there's any possibility we can implement something like that for 2025, because I think that's something that's sorely lacking.
I couldn't agree with you more, because I do think that if we had established performance standards, so that people do not get sort of locked into a position and have to necessarily always just wait for a COLA in order to get some type of increase. If we had some type of performance-based merit pay system, it may in fact help to keep some of the turnover even lower than it is. So I agree with you. I mean, you and I have been talking about this for a while now, and I'm glad that we're going to finally get the study underway. But again, I would like to know how much money are we losing in traffic and transportation as a result of those vacancies, particularly for the folks that write the tickets and get the revenue in.
I can have that discussion with the FRC. I don't think Amy's on the phone. I honestly don't know how I would go about tracking that money. I mean, I can tell you how many vacancies we have. I can, we can look at that. We can focus on that division for sure. But as far as giving you a number of how much money we might be, I don't really have any way of providing those stats. But I'll talk to the FRC and see if there's any way to look at how they would look at that or how they would suggest looking at it.
I think they can give us a number probably. I'm sure that traffic and transportation can give us that number of how the revenue has shifted as a result of those vacancies. And I'm sure by now they already know what that number is. But yeah, it would be great if we all knew in this committee, so that if there's something that we need to do in terms of meeting with Traffic and Transportation Standing Committee to have further discussions on it, then I think we should do that. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to follow up on what you said. I couldn't agree with you more. I'm sure Mr. Somerville and his team can come up with those numbers and help us cross out with that, because that's just, to me, one of those, probably not best term to couch it in, but that's one of the profit centers. I'm sure those people more than pay for their salaries.
Yeah.
Given the problems with parking in this town. Mm-hmm. So, and we're going to have some turnover in this committee. So when you all get that information, if that could be shared with council, I think that would be good.
That would be. Appreciate that.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Not. Okay, back to you.
That's really all we have for today. Of course, we'll be continuing to provide updates on the compensation study as we move forward. I will point out that, that the pay increase we just received, the 5.88, was just effective on the 6th. So all our positions will be posted at higher rates. So there will be some opportunity, I think, now to attract more candidates for all of our positions, including PE goods.
I hope you're right, but I'm saying if there's something that we can do in the interim, and I don't know what that is. I can't classify positions, but I do know that with reclassifications, that's the method that we may have to do now to try to make sure that, we can fully staff those folks, because the revenue we're losing far exceeds, whatever increase we would be giving them. It's just very practical to me. Instead of getting caught up in the whole bureaucracy of how to do it, as we both know, that can be really crazy. Let's just try to get out of the box and try to maximize the kind of revenue that we can get if we can get them fully staffed. Are there any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I didn't take my hand down.
I'm sorry.
On the roll. No, I'm good. I know there have been some engineering positions. I think it's been open for a while, which slows up the approval process for plans going through TRC and etc. I think we had some positions that may have been open as long as 18 months.
Yes.
I think part of the problem is, I know the private sector out there is competing for, as many engineers, I guess, as can be produced, but we got to get those things filled. So back to your point, Mr. Chairman, the amount that we're advertising for a position to be open that long, obviously somebody must be looking at it saying, hey, if that's not enough, I'm going to apply someplace else. Maybe Councilmember Gregg, you might can have some input on whether you get a chance to look at what we are offering for those positions and seeing, is that commensurate with the market, or do we need to revisit the classification that Councilman Gregory is referring to? But I know we need it. It takes too long to get plans approved through our approval process. To the point to where being West Ashley, we have divided government. Some people are in the city, some people are in the St. Andrews PSD, and there are actually some business people that stay in the county because they don't want to go through the city's approval process. That's not good for our revitalization, West Ashley. That's not good for local option sales tax revenue. In the case of a hotel, for example, that's not good for accommodation sales tax or hospitality taxes. So it definitely has a bottom line effect for the city. So you can include that in there too. That would be good. Other than that, I'm in. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, if I could,
Yes.
please. Yeah, I just wanted to say there was obviously some negative vibes here, but overall, I just want to say thank you because this is overall a good report. And I think that some of that got overlooked a little bit in these discussions. We're in a much better situation year end 2023 than we were year end 2022. So I just want to tell Ms. Cross, thank you. And, Ms. Pope and, Miss Lindsay, all of you, thank you for the work you do, because I know there was a lot of negative comments here, but overall we are in a better position. And that one slide that Ms. Pope was showing showed that, and certainly we look at things and say, hey, there's some vacancies. But I just want to let you know how much we appreciate the work that you've done, because we're certainly in a better position. And I look forward to seeing what the comp study will do once we choose somebody. I think that's going to be a tremendous amount of information. It's going to be a game changer for us once we choose that group and they get done with that study, because we'll be able to answer some questions that we're speculating on right now. So I think this was a positive meeting. So I just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate it.
And in response to that, I think it's been a very positive meeting as well. And I do think when we compare the 2 years, yes, we have done a very good job. But my constructive criticism still remains that if there's an opportunity for us to increase revenue, okay, and it's simply reclassifying a position to do so, we should be looking into that. And that's not something that this committee, Human Resources, is necessarily responsible for. It may be something that Traffic and Transportation Committee may need to be taking up on, because to me, when we're losing money, that's a problem for me. And if it's simply just reclassifying a position in order for us to be able to pay them more to retain them. I also agree that once we get this study done and we have performance based upon merit, et cetera, that will help us to sustain. But in the interim, okay, 6 months to a year, how many tens of thousands of dollars we may be losing as a result of just simply reclassifying a position. My intent was not to be negative, but to be constructive. I appreciate any other questions or issues.
Yeah, let me follow up on that. I agree with both of you gentlemen. I mean, obviously, Councilman Shealy being positive. I was looking at the constructive also, from that constructive aspect. But let me ask this, Ms. Cross. When a certain department has a position advertised and it takes a long time to fill, do you all get any feedback from, let's say, the engineering department or maybe the public works department saying, we're advertising at these rates, brackets, if you will, and we're not, 6 months, 12 months gone by. Do we get any feedback from them saying or asking to increase the pay being offered because you're not getting any applicants? Do you get that kind of feedback?
Of course. I mean, sometimes we do, and we have. I mean, as you know, we did reclassify a good many stormwater positions,
Right.
just last year. So yes, we do. Now we have asked departments to kind of, these last few months kind of, bear with us because we wanted to get this comp study done and look at everything as a whole instead of kind of looking at individual positions one at a time. But I understand what you're saying. I mean, it maybe there is something we could do. Maybe it's not a pay increase. When for some hard to fill positions, we've actually looked at a hiring bonus, putting in a bonus to attract people. I don't know what that, and I'm perfectly willing to have the conversation. But again, having just increased our minimum by $1 an hour, and that flows up through our pay plan matrix. I don't feel like we quite yet realize what that's going to do for us. I think it's going to be positive. Is it going to fix everything? No, we probably aren't going to fill everything or be 100% by the end of the year, but I do believe it will have a positive impact.
And Councilmember Waring, I'm just pulled up our postings to look at the engineers that are out there now. I think the one that you might be referencing, is it the one in public service? The civil engineer position, is that the one you were thinking about?
I think so. I think it's the one that will help. I think Mr. Kinsey review plans when they come to.
That would be probably on the other side of the house, because this would be under Tom O'Brien, but this one's been open since March. But we did upgrade that position earlier this year. We took the civil engineer 2 and we did regrade it a grade higher. There are some in Matt Fountain's department as well. There's a stormwater project manager that starts at $91,990 to a posting range of 101. And then there's also a stormwater engineer project manager 2 that starts at 100,493 to 110,536. Those are definitely on the very high end.
And how long have they been being advertised for?
The second one I mentioned that was starting at 100,493, the project engineer 2 has been posted since August, and then the stormwater project manager 1 since October.
Okay, thank you.
And we do use a sign-on bonus with the PEOs. They're in a group where we do offer a sign-on bonus. It's $500, and that might be something that in the short term we could, talk with the new administration and Amy about looking at adjusting that. That way we're not committing to having something in a different grade without going through the study, but would definitely be a short-term impact to maybe attract some more attention to it.
Thank you, Ms. Pope, for that. Councilman Green, in your industry, I know you're not in human resources, but for project managers and things like that, does that sound competitive to you?
It depends on how many years of experience they're requiring. I mean, I would think, Ms. Pope, do we have like a 10-year requirement or 5-year requirement on that?
Oops, sorry, I muted myself. On the lower level one, it's 4 years. And on the higher level, it's 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to look at it. It might be a little low, but I haven't looked, but
Yeah, I've been looking
those
for
kind of positions in a really long time.
Got you. Okay.
And one thing I did want to say is thanks so much to Isabel Quattlebaum, who always puts together all of our data for these meetings. So I appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions or discussions? Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Second.
Meetings adjourned.
Thank you.
Right.
Have a good King
Have a good
holiday.
Thank
You
you,
too.
everyone.
Have a good.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.